Hello, Uggies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG. I'm pleased to report that my little dental issue is healing and a lot of the purple stuff is going away. However, at this point, I'm still a toothless old man. I go in later this week and hopefully we'll come out with some teeth. I'm tired of eating soup and very soft foods. It'd be nice to sink my teeth into a steak, but we'll see. Okay, this is a very interesting question because it's one that most hams don't ever have to deal with anymore. It used to be a big problem. Now, if you remember the old analog TV, when you put your antenna on the roof, and there are still people broadcasting there, you remember that you had channels 2 through 13. And you may wonder, whatever happened to channel 1? Well, the answer is the channel 1 was not assigned to television. That frequency space was given to the ham radio operators, and it's our present 6-meter band. Now, one of the problems that hams had with all sorts of transmissions was that when they transmitted, they interfered with televisions all around everywhere. Well, televisions have improved. Most people are using cable now or satellite or over the internet or something like that. But there are still a few people out there who use good old-fashioned television with an antenna on top. One of the interesting things about that is that if you put up your own antenna and you hear the local signals in your city, guess what? It's free. You don't have to pay for it. So a lot of people still do that if they, just watch certain shows that they like that are broadcast on your local stations. And yes, the local broadcast stations still broadcast. Now here's his problem. This is from Rick Myers, KO4OSA. Okay, and he lives in a mobile home park. He's running a Yaesu FT891 at anywhere between 10 and 35 watts max output almost exclusively on 10-meter FT8 and FT4. And his antenna consists of a 10-meter ham stick on the trailer roof with a mag mount. I'm a little surprised he can do that because that trailer roof is aluminum. And a magnet won't stick to that. Now, it will certainly couple capacitively to what's on the bottom of the mag mount, but you'd need something to hold that thing down. But that's not the problem we're talking about. The problem is my neighbor's TV antenna is approximately 30 feet from the ham stick with a direct line of sight. And I'm creating interference, causing pixelating when I transmit. So she must be listening to a digital signal. Okay, and they're out there. You can listen to them for free. You don't have to pay anybody for that stuff. A lot of people have forgotten that. In fact, I've heard of young people, when this has been demonstrated to them, they said, who do you pay? How do you get away with that? Isn't it illegal? Well, no, it's not illegal at all. It used to be all television was like that. Okay, Rick goes on to say, we tested this with my neighbor on the phone watching the TV screen and letting me know when the interference started and ended, which coincided with my transmission. Any suggestion of a remedy? I've been limiting my airtime till I know they're out of their trailer. I guess they're planning to move. I've ordered an MFJ 704 low-pass filter from HRO to try. That's part of a good solution. He says, thanks in advance and for what you do. From Rick Myers, KO4OSA. Okay? Now, we're going to talk about 2 issues. Now, here's the situation. Here's a trailer over here. And yes, this is what they look like from the air. They're much longer than they are wide. She has a TV antenna pointed this way, and he has a ham stick antenna right there. And so with only, I'm going to say 30 feet, between the two, this thing sends its signal out in circles, okay? This right here is a gain antenna. It has to be if you're going to do anything realistic with digital TV. Now, this signal, which is at 10 meters, which is 30 megahertz, is coming over into this antenna, which is probably set for twice that. It's very broadband. Let's see, what do they call them? Log periodic antenna that gets the TV bands and so on. Now there's two things that can happen, and this is important, and this is kind of lies at the crux of the matter. The transmitter here can be transmitting on harmonics, and it doesn't take much, considering how close they are, for a person right here to hear those harmonics very well. So the second harmonic would be at 60 megahertz, the third would be at 90 megahertz, and so on. And those harmonics or other spurious emissions, which can happen that are not harmonics, can get right straight in here through what's going on and be received by that television. Okay, that's problem number one, harmonics. Harmonics. Okay, now, problem number two. Oh, first of all, let me tell you how to solve this. You solve this by putting in line between your transmitter and the antenna a low pass filter. A low pass filter, okay? And what the low pass filter does is it kills these harmonics, okay? So that method of getting into your neighbor's TV it goes away. Now, let's talk about the other method of creating issues, okay? And that is that this television right here has a receiver passband, but the receiver passband actually looks like this, okay? Now, what happens is because this goes out here, and this has a certain sensitivity, when you put a very strong input in here, you can put a real strong input that comes and puts a fairly substantial amount of power in here. This problem with radio and television receivers is called fundamental overload. Fundamental overload. And what happens is there's so much power coming from here to here that it actually basically jams up the front end of the receiver to some degree. Okay, some pixelization, so it's some signal is getting through, but some is not. Now, how do you solve this problem, the fundamental overload? The answer is to put between the antenna and the TV a high-pass filter. So this takes the strong signal from over here and makes it go away. And so you have a low-pass filter on this side, a high-pass filter on this side. And between those two, you can enormously reduce the probability of interference, okay? And now, low-pass filters are easy to get because they go in on the ham radio side. And they'll cost you $50, $80, whatever, at MFJ or DX Engineering or a ham radio outlet. Regarding that high-pass filter, the question comes, whose responsibility is it to obtain it, install it, and maintain it? The answer is, it's the owner of the equipment. If you look in the television receiver handbook, there's an FCC statement saying that this device may not interfere with anybody else and must accept any interference that it gets from someone else. in this case you. Now if you put that low pass filter in, you have done everything within the state of the art to make sure that you are within compliance with the FCC rules. However, it's not that easy, okay? You put yours in, by the way, make sure that low pass filter is well grounded and that it's very near the transmitter physically itself. Who has to pay for the high pass filter? Well, if you go to your neighbor and say, you got to give me 15 bucks for this high pass filter I bought, and put it on the TV yourself, you know what's going to happen. Okay, what is much easier for you to do is, it appears that you developed a working relationship with the other trailer owner. And so go to him, her, and present them with a low pass filter and offer to install it, and then do some more tests. Basically, all you have to do is unscrew the cable from the back of the television, screw the low pass filter in, then screw the antenna on top of that. Now what that does is eliminate, well, not eliminate, but close to eliminating the signals that are lower in frequency than the lowest frequency she will be using. Between your low pass filter and her high pass filter, you should be copacetic. But this is the Channel Master CM3250 high pass filter, and you see how it's got the television style connectors there. Channel Master is a big name in television kind of stuff. My antenna rotator, which is actually made by Channel Master with an MFJ name on it, but on the bottom it still says Channel Master. Well-known brand. Look at the price of that, $14, okay? How much is it worth to you to have better relationships with your neighbor? 14 bucks? Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent price to pay. So I'm going to go against all of the hams who say, it's not our problem, not our fault, they got to deal with it, and say, help your neighbor deal with it. Your neighbor probably has zero technical understanding of what's going on. And her son or daughter probably came by, actually probably one of her grandchildren came by and installed that thing for her. She doesn't know anything about it. So help her out. And if she asks, can I pay for it? You can say, well, I'll split it with you or something like that. It's a very small price. Although some elderly people living in trailer parks really are living Social Security check to Social Security check. It's the only money they've got, and it's not very much. So, yes, you can solve the problem. We've talked about two. We've talked about your harmonics, which you can fix with a low-pass filter, and the fundamental overload of her front end, which can be fixed usually with a high-pass filter. And that should, if not eliminate your problem, dramatically reduce it, okay? And hopefully you can get to the point where your neighbor is happy. So there you have it. TVI rears its ugly head after 50 years of hardly ever hearing about it. Television interference used to be a big thing. And in fact, there's a section in the rules about quiet hours. This was where hams could be instructed to observe quiet hours so their neighbors could watch television. And some of the quiet hours could be quite restrictive. That's something we don't deal with these days, but it does crop up from time to time. So, thank you for writing, and I hope that answers your question. I sent you an email too on Friday, December 8th, 2023. And this video will come out sometime in December or January. So, until we next meet, please be sure to subscribe, click the bell, and click like, and share. And until then, 73.